Marriage is a sacred bond between two individuals who vow to love each other for as long as they shall live. It represents the joining of two people in a committed partnership who offers each other security, companionship, and support. However, when the promise that was once made is broken and your partner turns out to be someone you never thought they would be, what's left for you to do? That brings us to the tragic ending story of Amy and Robert Bosley. This is the terrible story of Robert Bosley. Come and join us as we unravel this horrific crime.
Someone is breaking into our house. Oh my God. I don't know what to do. Oh, you can't go out there. It's my kid.
In the house now?
He just grabbed and he shot my husband. Oh my God. He shot my husband.
In the glittering world they basked themselves in, Amy and Robert Bosley, or most commonly known as Bob, appeared to have it all. Their lavish lifestyle was the stuff of dreams filled with champagne toasts and lively parties. They were the epitome of a power couple in their golden years, or so for a while. The pair met in the magical year of 1986. Amy was a 17-year-old high school student and was an academic achiever for her year. She's a born-driven person and has the dreams of having a big and better life. At a very young age, Amy was very independent and fully supported herself by working at a local diner where she would meet the man who'd share her dreams, which was Bob Bosley. Bob Bosley was a no-miser. At the age of 23, he was already a business owner. He was very dedicated at his job and very passionate about what he does and what it serves to people he does for it. He has a habit of putting in extra work hours, as he is the type to always make sure that the job is done correctly. Chimney sweeping business was already headed toward success, and marrying the love of his life might just have been the cherry on top for the man. In 1990, the pair tied the knot. Everything was just fitting in their perfect places, and the couple could not have asked for more. Eventually, Amy Bosley would become the bookkeeper at Bob's multi-million-dollar operation and an office manager all at once. The couple, who lived in Alexandria, Kentucky, had expensive cars and a vacation cabin, and spent large sums of money on glamorous houseboat parties on Lake Cumberland. It was truly the best of times. Until one fateful night, tragedy struck. The two children, who were asleep at the time, quickly hid under their beds after hearing the multiple gunshots that had just erupted. When the police arrived at the scene, the sight that flashed before them was the 41-year-old deceased Bob Bosley. When Amy was taken for her first recorded statement, Amy persistently told the police that an unidentified man had materialized in their bedroom and murdered her husband. She explained that the killer broke the back window and escaped out the back door. The police then checked in the children's bedroom to make sure they're safe. The 5- and 9-year-old Morgan and Trevor Bosley comforted Amy, who was weeping inconsolably. The Bosleys' cabin appeared to have been broken into. Detective Dave Fickensecker said that it was a very bloody scene, and that whatever had gone on was extremely violent. The once immaculate cabin was a shambles. As if the burglar was searching for something, they discovered broken glasses scattered about the house and several left open cabinets and drawers. The killer was yet to be found, and so the police continued with their inquiry. Amy Bosley described the killer as a tall white man, presumably in his 30s, with a pointed and every mean face. "He stunk, like it was a really awful smell," she added. Without delay, police scanned the community to look for any suspicious individual who might fit Amy's depiction. Strangely, even with the help of the choppers scanning the very wooded area, no signs of the culprit were found. And even by personally scanning the locality, no one matched Amy's description of the killer. However, as the investigation dragged on, the more unusual the crime scene seemed. Investigators couldn't wrap their heads around the culprit's motive because Bob Bosley had been shot 7 times. And so, if the intention to begin with was robbery, why the overkill? Moreover, the officers began to find it strange that the kitchen drawers and cabinets throughout the house were ransacked, despite nothing of value being stored to them. Along with this are many medication pills and money left scattered on the floor which didn't quite fit the crime. Amy's sister arrived shortly upon hearing the news and very generously took the kids and helped with Amy's purse, mindless to the future catastrophe it would bring. Amy was taken to the police station for more interrogation and briefly detained. searching the bereaved woman for every piece of information they could possibly obtain. Unsurprisingly, the case made headlines in the town of Campbell. The closest thing they had to royalty was Bob and Amy. From luxurious sports cars, horses, a plane, and a multi-million-dollar business to end up to this, really shaken the neighborhood. The community was on edge. Fearing that a crazed killer was on the loose, locals kept their children at home from school the following days. To maintain peace and control, the police department executed a press conference and gave the media a brief answer to their question. Police Chief Keith Hill told the media that a white male suspect entered the Bosley cabin through the back door, and that strangely nothing appears to be missing and no gun or gun shell casings have been found. The investigation took an interesting turn when detectives found 4 shell casings in the bottom of a washing machine full of clothes, water, and detergent. It seemed absurd that the burglar would attempt to pick up his casings and wash them if he was fleeing the site of the crime. The crime began appearing to be staged, and what would add more fuel to the fire was IRS agents showing up at the police headquarters. They were intrigued with Bob's sudden death, as the IRS agents were supposed to have a meeting with Bob the day he was murdered. Apparently, Bob's roofing and chimney sweep service company owed the IRS a whopping $1.7 million by 2005. The IRS agents revealed that a month earlier, they had visited Amy's office and subpoenaed office records. According to the IRS agents, after following up many times, Amy never sent the records. On the day before the murder, IRS agents called Amy and demanded to speak to Bob, and when Amy handed the phone over to Bob, the voice sounded like a woman trying to be a man. Police invited Amy back for further questioning, and this time, she began pointing fingers. Though crying, Amy confessed her love for Bob despite their many marital faults. She told the police that Bob cheated on her several times, and that he would often go to Lake Cumberland and invite numerous women on his boat. This information was quickly backed up as graphic images of Bob with other women were found in their cabin. Still, things weren't adding up. Detectives continue interrogating Amy on who she thinks might do such a heinous crime to her husband, and this is where answers began unfolding for the case.
I owed Bob money. And he gave him a check for he owed him, I think, over $1,000, and he only paid him $200 of it, and big long note. Why he didn't know the rest of the money. There's times when Bob has disagreements with people. He's pretty nasty, and he's very in their face. You definitely know where he's thinking and what he thinks. I remember Bobby saying, "You keep around with people, you ain't gonna have any friends left."
Amy told the detectives that it might have been one of Bob's clients, as Bob was very argumentative, and then she resorts to blaming Noah, Bob's childhood friend, and said to the police that they had an argument about financial obligations 2 days before the murder. Noah had an alibi, which was later on confirmed by the police, along with Amy Bosley's deceitful lying. With evidence piling against her, the police arrested Amy for suspicion of murder. Police would later find out that it was Amy's job to handle the taxes, and that she's the one who's been handling the money since 1990. But in 2000, she began stealing money that was owed to the IRS. To this day, the question as to why she stole millions is still unanswered, as the said money is still nowhere to be found. Bob, however, was clueless about the fact that his company owes the government $1 million to taxes, as Amy was keeping all financial records away from Bob for the last 5 years. The IRS told Amy that if Bob failed to pursue his unpaid taxes since 2000, he would face jail time. And so with this information, Amy Bosley did the only plausible thing she can think of. At around 5 a.m. in the morning, hours before the meeting with the IRS was about to take place, Amy got out of bed while Bob was asleep. She pulled out a 9mm handgun and aimed it at her husband and fired a shot into his chest. Per Amy, Bob managed to survive the initial shots and tried taking the gun away from her. However, Amy won and shot her husband an additional 6 times mercilessly. While he helplessly laid over the bed on his knees, Amy began plotting her fake scene of the crime scheme and acted fastly as she could. She ran outside their bedroom and began ransacking items out of their drawers and cabinets, and threw papers around to look as if somebody was attempting to rob them. She then grabbed an axe and broke their glass doors. After staging the crime scene, Amy would then call 911 and use her best hysterical spouse voice to report that an intruder shot her husband.
Someone is breaking into our house. Oh my God. I don't know what to do. No, you can't go out there. It's my kid.
In the house now?
He just clapped and he shot my husband. Oh my God. He shot my husband.
Amy honestly thought that with the death of Bob Bosley, the IRS would just forget about the tax bills she refused to pay. But she soon acquired even bigger problems than the feds. Still, the police are yet to find the murder weapon Amy Bosley had used to kill her husband. The question, where could she have hidden it, was shortly answered when a few days later, Amy's sister reported to the police that she had found the gun in Amy's purse. Morgan and Trevor, Amy and Bob's children, claimed that on the night of their father's murder, they heard breaking glass right after the gunshots. And this was the final nail on the coffin for Amy. 10 days in all were spent on the investigation. Amy Bosley admitted that she had murdered her husband on May 27, 2005. Amy's trial started on September 21, 2006. The prosecution intended to summon 2 witnesses, Amy's own children, to attest to the fact that they heard gunshots prior to hearing any noises that may have indicated a break-in, such as broken glass. Although the evidence was extremely damaging, it would also be extremely upsetting for a 6- and 9-year-old to testify against their mother in court. Bob's parents wanted the prosecutor to work with Amy on a settlement so that their grandchildren would be protected. In the hopes that she would accept and spare the children from testifying, she was offered 20 years. Amy had the last say in the matter, and on September 24th, she entered a guilty plea in exchange for a minimum sentence of 20 years. Today, Amy Bosley is officially a free woman after she has served her sentence in prison. But what is freedom in exchange for the tragic life that was lost to greed and recklessness that could have been avoided if only she had made some noble choices? What is freedom worth for the guilt you will forever carry in the palms you once devoted to brutal, murderous acts? Or does she feel guilty at all? 20 years that should have been a meaningful time spent by the couple with their children. 20 years that would have stayed fruitful if only complications were communicated. 20 years that could have allotted the family the time to watch each other grow in the name of love and passion are now eternally lost. Officially a would have, could have, should have scenario. A woman that had been lost in the fruits of his very own husband's labor. The Robert Bosley case.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us today. Check out this other thrilling videos for you to watch, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe and like button, and let us know down below your thoughts on today's case. Until then, take care.